अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to all of you for the Bhakti Shastri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu sessions. Yesterday we began the topic of Raganuga sadhana. If you remember, yesterday we discussed quite briefly the definition of Raganuga Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti, as Rupa Goswami says, defines as that bhakti which follows the Ragatmika Bhakti, which is especially or distinctively found in the Vrajvasis. Then we saw what is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. It is not that we have spontaneous devotion towards Krishna, it is spontaneous attraction to follow the Ragatmikas. Ragatmika Bhaktas are having spontaneous devotion towards Krishna, they are eternally perfected devotees. So now Ragatmika we had to know, because in order to know Raganuga, Ragatmika has to be discussed. So then Rupa Goswami defines what is Ragatmika Bhakti. This is a very famous verse. Ishte swarasiki raga paramavishtata bhavet tanmaya bhavet bhakti satra ragatmikodita. So having defined now Ragatmika, we saw Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary on that. There are two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, Sambandha Rupa and Kama Rupa. So now this Ragatmika Bhakti, we are not discussing Raganuga Bhakti right now. Please remember, it is Ragatmika Bhakti. This Ragatmika, that is what is found in the eternal residents of Vrindavan. They are of two types, Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Now Kama Rupa is a special relationship, Sambandha is relationship. This is especially referring to the Madhurya Ras, and why, even though this is a relationship, why it is titled separately, because of the special characteristic. And the example is everyone is coming, the king is also coming. So why mention king separately? Because of his special significance. And then we went into the scriptural proof of Ragatmika Bhakti. And the scriptural proof quoted from the Bhagavatam is the seventh canto, Kama Dveshat Bayat Snehat Yatha Bhakteshwara Mana Aveshya Tad Agam Hitva Bhavas Tad Gatim Tata Gopya Kamat Bayot Kamsya Kamsa Dveshat Chaidyadeyo Nripa Sambandhat Vrishnaya Snehat Yuyam Bhaktya Vayam Vibhu. So these was the verses which were quoted, and we studied Jiva Goswami's commentary yesterday. Now today we will further read the verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita. Now before I read verse 276 and 277, I want to know how many devotees were able to understand the explanation given by Jiva Goswami for these two verses, 274 and 275. Raise your hands. How many devotees were able to understand or not able to understand? That will become more clear. How many devotees were not able to understand the commentary of Jiva Goswami, and at least Jiva Goswami is only given commentary? You can be a little sincere and honest about it. How many were not able to understand? Or how many were able to understand at least? How many were able to understand the commentary? No response. What does this mean? So what I should take, I don't understand. Partially understood. Okay. How many did not understand anything what we discussed? Explanation of Jiva Goswami on verse 274 and 275. Again, no response. I don't understand what I should think about it. I will just briefly once again explain. The reason I'm explaining is because that is connected to today's verses and today's explanation, which will be a little deeper now. So you'll have to a little bit thoroughly understand Jiva Goswami's commentary on these two verses. So I'll again, once again, briefly touch upon it so that we have a little clear understanding of what Jiva Goswami is trying to comment on these two verses. Okay. Okay. Because of the impossibility of regulating the feelings that arise spontaneously according to their own taste, those persons filled with conjugal attractions and other emotions mentioned in the verse cannot be classed as practitioners of Vaidhi Bhakti. So Gopya Kamad, Kamsa Bhayat, you cannot, now start fearing Krishna. You cannot, order someone. It is spontaneous. It's coming, these emotions. And similarly, spontaneous conjugal feelings. So that is why it cannot be classed as Vaidhi Bhakti. So this is the first point. This is the first point to be noted in the commentary. The following statement has been made. Tasmad vairanu bandena nirvairena bhayena va snehat kamena va yunjat kadachin nekshati pratak. By continuous enmity, vairanu bandena, by favorable relations, nirvairena va, or by conjugal feelings arising from strong spiritual affection, snehat kamena va, out of fear of transgressing morality as an unmarried lover or even as a married lover. Bhayenava. That is the meaning of the translation given by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur for this verse. The mind should concentrate on the Lord. Kadachin yunjat. One will realize a relationship with the Lord only according to the mode of practice. This is further. Now then, in this verse, the verb yunjat is in a potential mood indicating possibility rather than an injunction, which belongs to the verb. So, from Sanskrit point of view, it is mentioned yunjat is said because it is in a potential mood. You can It's not an injunction, because I told you cannot instruct someone to now fear Krishna or hate Krishna. These are emotions which spontaneously manifest. The meaning is thus: it is possible to concentrate on the Lord through enmity, devotion, fear, affection, or conjugal love, rather than one should concentrate on the Lord through enmity, devotion, fear, affection, or conjugal attraction. One cannot order to a person to have these emotions. That's why Yunjat is in a potential sense. But then in the sequence of the verses, it is also said, Tasmat kenapi upayena mana Krishne niveshayet. Therefore, one must become absorbed in Krishna in any favorable method. So this is the conclusion later on Narad Muni is going to bring out. This is, even if with enmity one concentrates his mind on Krishna, he will, attain Krishna. So that is why this is the glory of the object of worship. That's why some or other absorb your mind on Krishna. This is how generally he concludes, Narad Muni. In this statement, the potential mode indicates approval. Here is an approval. That's why somehow one may try to absorb his mind in Krishna. There is an approval here. Now, yatha in the verse 220 means yathavat, correspondingly. Tad gatim means appropriate form. And therefore, in 274, many persons absorbing their minds in the Lord out of conjugal feelings, hatred, fear, affection, and devotion attained according to the type of absorption. Yathavat, a suitable form. The gopis were absorbed in the mood of conjugal love, madhurya, so they attained gopis form. The others might have absorbed their mood in sakyaras, so they will attain a gopavesh. So like that, yathavat, tathagatim. So these both are connected. Yathavat and tathagatim. Yathavat and tathagatim has been mentioned in this verse. Yatha and tathagatim. Yathavat is here. Yatha here. This is it. Tadgatim. So that is the point Jiva Goswami is explaining here. Then next, those who intensely concentrate on the Lord with hatred or fear can attain liberation, but not prema. So those who out of fear, like Kamsa, Bhayat Kamsa, they'll also attain the Lord, but they will attain liberation, but they'll not attain prema. That is being stated. Among those persons who with hatred or fear gave up their sins or impurity by the power of absorbing their minds in the Lord. So, hitva, agam hitva means agam in sin. They were able to give their sins. This statement, however, does not apply to those persons with conjugal feelings. Kam, Gopya Kama. It doesn't apply, this statement. Why? Because there is no sin. So this statement here, tad agam hitva, refers to especially, dveshat, dveshat and bhayat. It doesn't refer to kamat, because gopya kamat. Gopis don't have kama because they are pure. They are already pure. So that's the point which is being made here. They have no sin. The kama mentioned is not material. Now, to substantiate that gopis don't have kama, the supreme nature of the gopis kama is shown in the following statement. So, Rupa Goswami gives the reference to prove that the gopis don't have kama. Dvishan api rishikesham kim utadoksha priya. Since even Shishupal, who hated Krishna, Dvishan api, achieved perfection, then what to speak of the Lord's dear gopis? Uta, Kimuta is Kemetic 9. Kimuta 9, Kemetic 9 it is called. The Priya refers to the dear gopis. So that's why they are already, they are dear to the Lord, they are very close to the Lord, so they are pure-hearted. So that's why gopis don't have kama. Now, how can the Nitya Siddha devotees such as the gopis be described as attaining kama? This is one question Vishwanath Chandra Thakur raises in his commentary, and we answered. One should not say, how can the Nitsiddha devotees such as the gopis, as described by being be described as attaining karma and other relationships, since those relationships are eternal. The intention is to show the state of Purva Rag that they experience during Krishna's earthly pastimes. And we described yesterday what is Purva Rag in a generic sense, general explanation I give. I gave some worldly example also to relate for us this, what is this Purva Rag. This, the same applies to Vrishnis. And yesterday we clarified Vrishnis refers to the Vrajavasis and not to the Dwarkavasis here, because the Dwarkavasis are not Ragatmika Bhaktas. Because Ragatmika Bhaktas or Ragatmika devotees, the eternal liberated souls, Nitya Siddha devotees, are only the Vrajavasis. So here we clarified that, it is not referring to the Vrishnis of Dwarka, but it is referring to the Vrishnis of Vraj. And both Pandavas also experience separation, but they have attained the Lord when they again have the darshan of the Lord. But this is not Ragatmika again, because they have knowledge about the Lord. So that is where we yesterday finished our discussion. Now today, further in these two verses, Rupa Goswami, by composing this verse, clarifies the scriptural proof given in verse 274 and 275. So let us see this verse and the explanation of Jiva Goswami on this verse. And carefully, let us try to attentively hear this discussion. And if you have questions, then at the end of the discussion of Jiva Goswami's commentary, few slides are there, maybe 8-10 slides. Then we will take up question answers. Till then, just hold on. Okay. So let us now read this verse. Anukulya viparayasya bhiti dvesho parahato snehasya sakya vachitvad vaidi bhaktya anuvartita kimva prem abhidhayitvan nopayogotra sadhane bhaktya vayam iti vyaktam vaidi bhaktir udirita. Now Rupa Goswami is clarifying, because fear and hatred are not favorable. Bhiti is fear, dvesha is hatred, both together is dvivachan. So bhita dvesho anukalyasya viparayasya. It is not favorable. They are rejected as modes of bhakti. Parahato. They are rejected. Affection. Sneha is called as affection of the Pandavas. If it means friendliness, sakya, snehasya sakya vachitvad belongs to Vaidhi Bhakti. This belongs to Vaidhi Bhakti because the sakya is predominated by veneration. Vaidhi Bhakti anuvartita. So the Pandavas, although they had a lot of affection for Krishna, they had a lot of friendly dealings with Krishna. Among the Pandavas, especially it is Arjuna, who is called as the Saka of Krishna. But even Arjuna had knowledge about the powers of the Lord, Aishwarya Gyan of the Lord, that he is Lord. The 11th chapter of the Vishwarupa Yoga, it brings out when Krishna showed his Vishwarup, Arjuna started praying to the Lord. Out of friendliness, I have sometimes joked with you, laughed with you, and sometimes I have, transgressed the etiquette. Please forgive me. Just like Pitavas Putra, just like father and son, and lover and beloved, they forgive in their intimate dealings. So please forgive me. So those beautiful verses are there. So the affection of the Pandavas, if it means Sakya, it belongs to Vaidhi Bhakti. If Sneha means prema or a stage of prema, kimva prema abhidha itvad, it still could not be admitted here. Na upayogo atra. This sneha, now first sneha meaning means, of the Pandavas, which is Sakya, it belongs to Vaidi. If sneha means prema or a stage of prema, we know in prema there are different stages. Anyone remembers? I had mentioned some 7 stages are there in prema. Anyone remembers? Raise your hand. Anyone remembers the different stages in prema also? After bhava is prema. In prema also there are different stages, higher stages. Anyone remembers? You can raise your hand to answer. Anyone would like to see someone? Yes, Vaishali Mataji has typed it. Anurag. There is Sneha, Mana, Raga, Anuraga. Then there is Bhava and Mahabhava. So like that, there are these highly elevated stages of prema, and this cannot be attained in even a sadhaka who has attained siddhi, who has attained prema bhakti, because they are only because the material body cannot sustain these transcendental emotions. If you remember, when we started first describing sadhana bhakti, that's where when we first brought out this point that yes, you can see here in prema there is pranaya, sneha, raga, anuraga, mana, mahabhava. Pranaya means, again in prema, these are only attained in sadhana siddha gopis who are allowed to participate in Vraja's pastimes or Krishna's pastimes. They are the ones who attain this. So then they attain perfection and go back to the spiritual world. Pranaya, sneha, raga, anuraga, man. Man means spiritual anger or anger out of love. There is also sometimes bhava mentioned and then mahabhava. And this bhava here is different from bhava bhakti, which is after asakti. So these things are there. So I hope it is clear now what actually this verse, in this verse translation, Jiva Goswami or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur are explaining. So what they are explaining becomes very, very clear that prema cannot refer to what? Sneha cannot refer to a stage of prema. It cannot be admitted here as the topic is sadhana bhakti. How can you discuss about prema? We are not speaking about prema definition or higher levels of prema definition. We are discussing about sadhana bhakti. Because within sadhana bhakti is Raganuga bhakti. So the topic here is sadhana. In the phrase bhaktaya vayam, and we, the sages Narad, attained befitting goals of bhakti. Bhaktya vayam iti vakya. Bhakti refers to Vaidi bhakti. Vaidi bhaktir udirita. So fear and hatred are not favorable. They are rejected as modes of bhakti. Affection of the Pandavas, it cannot be ragatmika because they have knowledge about the Lord. It belongs to Vaidi bhakti. Sneha cannot refer to a stage of prema because here the discussion is about sadhana bhakti. And bhaktya vayam, as Narad Muni is saying in that verse, refers to again Vaidi bhakti. So what by this verse is Rup Goswami trying to establish is explained in Jiva Goswami's commentary. Let us go to Jiva Goswami's commentary. In fact, without Jiva Goswami's commentary, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is very, very difficult to enter or penetrate into the understanding of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. One is Jiva Goswami is our Siddhanta Acharya. Second, it was Jiva Goswami who was assisting Rupa Goswami in the composition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So now let us go through the explanation given by Jiva Goswami and then we will take up questions. though many ways of attaining Krishna were mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse, only two among them, Kama and Sambandha, are accepted as causes of Ragatmika Bhakti. There are many ways, Dvesha, Bhaya, Bhaktya, Vayam, all that was, but only two, Kama and Sambandha, are accepted as causes of Ragatmika Bhakti. That's what first Jiva Goswami is saying here. Okay, let us change the format. Every statement I'm reading and giving explanation. If you have a question, you can raise your hand. Please raise your hand, because I know it's at the end, if I ask you, then you might not get. Because why here it is mentioned as causes of Ragatmika Bhakti? Because Raganuga will follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas, and following them, he'll attain perfection. And when he attains perfection and goes back to the Lord's abode, he will also become a Ragatmika Bhakta. So in that sense, their causes of Ragatmika Bhakti has been stated here. This is explained in two verses. So these two verses explain that among these many ways, only Kam and Sambandha are accepted causes of Ragatmika Bhakti. Remember, we are discussing scriptural proof for Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay? Narad mentions fear and hatred only to express Kaimutya. How much more the persons performing real bhakti will attain, and not to class them as bhakti. Kimuta, I mentioned, Kaimutik Nyaya it is called. If by fear and hatred Kamsa and the Shishupal were able to, purify themselves and attain liberation, this is the result. Then if one practices devotion, what result can be attained? It's unimaginable. So that is called as Kaimutik Nyaya. So fear and hatred as not classed as bhakti. It is only to express Kaimutik Nyaya. Now, this is illustrated by the following verse. So to substantiate this point, Jiva Goswami gives a reference. Vairenayam Nripataya Shishupala Poundra Shalvadayo Gati Vilas Vilokanadaya Dhyayanta Krita Diya Shayanasana Tat Samyam Apurva Anurakta Diyam Punakim. Again, Punakim has come, Kaimutik Nyaya has come here. Inimical kings like Shishupal, Poundrak, and Shalva. Shishupal, Poundra, Shalvadayo, Nripataya. While they were lying down, sitting, or engaging in other activities, Shayana Asanado enviously meditated, Vairena Dhyayante, upon the bodily movements of the Lord, Yam Gatim, his sporting pastimes, Vilas, and his loving glances, Viloka Adaya. Being thus always absorbed in Krishna, Akrita Dhiya, they achieved positions in the spiritual world. Tat Samyam Apu. What then, this is Kaimutik Nyaya, can be said of the benedictions offered to those who constantly fix their minds on the Lord, on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? Kim Puna Anurakta Dhyam. If with Vairena they were meditating and they were absorbed and they attained the Lord, then what to speak of those who fix their mind in a favorable? Remember, bhakti has to be practiced favorably. Then only it is called as bhakti. So their practice is not called as bhakti. We know that from the Uttama Bhakti definition. This point has already been explained in the third verse of Bhakti, Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 3. Sa Bhakti Saptame Skandya Bhangya Devarshi Narudita. Bhakti has been explained by Narad along with other items which are not bhakti. So this Bhayena, and Vairena, these are not bhakti. These are not bhakti. But still, Narad also has said, what Narad again further says in the 7th canto? Yata Vairanu Bandena Martastan Mayatam Iyat Na Tata Bhakti Yogena itime nishchitamati. Very, very interesting and bewildering verse Narad Muni is speaking. What is he saying? One cannot achieve martya na yata iyat, such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Lord. Tanmayatam. Tanmaya means absorption in the Lord or in any object by devotional service, bhakti yogena. So Narad Muni is glorifying Shishupal and Kamsa. What kind of absorption they had? My goodness. Even by devotional service, you cannot have this kind of absorption as one can through enmity towards Lord. Yatha vairanu bandhe. This is my opinion. Iti me nishchita mati. So how to understand this verse? Narad Muni is saying. Narad Muni is saying that this absorption these demons had who did not practice bhakti, who wanted to harm the Lord, but their absorption is great. And such intense absorption in the Lord cannot be had by devotional service also, as one can have with enmity. And this is my opinion. This is what Narad Muni says. Now, Jiva Goswami gives a very nice explanation to this. However, he makes this statement only to express the greatly inferior nature of his own Vaidhi Bhakti. In comparison to the presence of strong emotions such as lust or enmity as the means of attaining complete absorption in the Lord. So Narad Muni is speaking, out of great humility. He's comparing his own Vaidhi Bhakti. The more one is advanced in pure devotion, the more he thinks I am inferior to all others and others are superior. So this is, the sign of, one is in Prema Bhakti. So he is just expressing his inferiority of his own Vaidhi Bhakti compared to, these. Among the means of attaining the Lord, which are filled with emotions, the relationship of enmity to the Lord, though condemned, is also considered by him to be better than bhakti filled with rules because it causes absorption in the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary says, how much greater then must be the absorption caused by Kamarup Bhakti. So, although it is condemned, it is considered by him better with compared to Vaidhi Bhakti, he says, because these people don't practice any bhakti only, and neither they are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, and they have spontaneous absorption in the Lord out of fear or out of envious mentality. So this is what Narad Muni's bhav is. Actually, this is his mood, and this mood is brought out by Jiva Goswami in his commentary. But Vishwanath Chakra Thakur brings out from another angle, and he says, oh, if this absorption is there with the enemies of the Lord, then how much absorption can be in Kamarupa Bhakti? So that's what he says. The phrase Tanmayata in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:127 means being absorbed in the Lord. In the same manner that a lusty man who is absorbed in woman is called Strimaya. So Tanmaya and Strimaya, like that it is, absorption. Any questions you have? Every point we are discussing, you can raise your hand and you can ask. Okay. Sneha is explained as follows. Some may claim that the sneha or affection of the Pandavas should be classed as ragatmika, since it is filled with friendly feelings of the Sakya for the Lord, evident in their dealings with Krishna. Now, having read the statement, why the sneha of the Pandavas cannot be classed as ragatmika? Anyone would like to answer can raise your hands. Why the sneha of the Pandavas cannot be classed as ragatmika? I would like to see the other participants also. Like to know. I'll have to ask now. Okay. Yes, the answers are coming out very nicely, and this is giving me also some inspiration to speak. Yes, this is the correct answer. Okay, okay, there is a. He's, I think, our Sheetal Kumar Chowgle. What is your Dikshit name? What is the initiative name? I don't. Yes, what is your answer?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My
Yes.
name is Surya Kundas. I forgot to edit it.
Very good. What's your answer?
Actually, the Pandavas they had the friendly relationship because they know the knowledge of the Lord. They know the Lord as a Lord, and in Ragatmik Bhakti, in Vraja, they don't feel that he's a Lord.
Yes, that is also one reason. Yes, Devendra Prabhuji.
Yeah, I had a similar answer that they already know the position of the Lord as the Lord and also have a friendly relationship. So it is
Yeah.
not intimately friendly, it is Gaurav Sakya. So that's
Yes.
why it's not Ragatmi.
They have the Aishwarya Gyan of the knowledge about the Lord. They know that He's the Lord. And Ragatmika Bhakti is exclusive with only the Vrajvasis. And it is spontaneous devotion. And this is only found in Vraj, not in the any other dhams, whether it is Mathura or Dwarka. Yes. So Sneha, why it cannot be classed as Ragatmika was yes. Okay, there is a question. Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat
Yes.
Prabhu, then Pandavas, they come into what? Means if they are not Ragatmika, they, like how yesterday also I had, when Varka Desh devotees you said, so if they are not into Ragatmika, then what they, what category they come into? They have already prema, right?
Please understand, prema is a very generic sense term. It's not that the devotees in Vaikunta don't have prema for the Lord. They also have prema for the Lord. They have the prema for the Lord who are in Shantras and Dasiras, and half there is Sakyaras. So there is prema. So by practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, one can attain Vaidhi Bhav and Vaidhi Prema, which can lead to Vaikunta. Now, still further, within the, within the, after the Vaikunta world is the Golok world, there are these three different dhams, that is, Vrindavan, Mathura and Dwarka. And there also the prema level is higher, that there is more intimacy. Like, Yudhishthira Maharaj has more intimacy compared to, the Vaikunta Vasis. Yudhishthira Maharaj can order the Lord, become my messenger. Nobody can tell Narayan to become the messenger and do some service, menial, give some menial service to Narayan. Or Arjun can order Krishna to become his chariot driver, and Krishna lovingly accepts it. But still, there is still not that intimacy because they have Aishwarya Gyan about the Lord. So they also have prema, but that prema is, with Aishwarya Gyan. There is Aishwarya Gyan. But Madhurya. Now, Madhurya, when I say here, it means not, the five rasas, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. Madhurya means only filled with sweetness, where they don't accept Krishna as God. Krishna is my lover, Krishna is my friend, Krishna is my son, Krishna is my, is my Lord and Master, and I serve him, Dasiras. But again, there is no knowledge about the Krishna's divinity. So in Vraj, Krishna's divinity is not accepted there. So that is filled with sweetness. So that is a higher level of prema which is being spoken. And this entrance into, this realm of Golok, Vraj, Vrindavan, can be had not by practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, but with Vaidhi for the Raganuga, following the Ragatmikas, when we practice Raganuga Bhakti and attain perfection in Raganuga Bhakti, then we attain Bhava and Prema, we can attain Golok Ras. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come to give. So this is how we should understand it. I hope it is clear.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yes?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Prabhuji.
Sorry, Prabhu. One more question I have. Now you said Ragatmika only exists in Goloka, Golok Vrindavan. So whether Shantarasa also, I mean the devotees in Shantarasa, they are also Ragatmik Bhaktas in Golok.
Shant Rasa basically is not spoken, especially, and Mahaprabhu very clearly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Kaviraj Goswami speaks about it. He says these 4 rasas he came to give. The 4 rasas, that is Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, and specifically Madhurya. These 4 rasas he came to know. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 4th chapter, verses I think maybe somewhere in between it is 15, 16 is Prem Ras Niryas. After that this verse comes. So specifically in the 4 loving reciprocations, spontaneous devotion. Shantras, there is no loving reciprocations and there is no intimacy in Shantras. Please understand that. There is no intimacy. Like the flute of Krishna is also a conscious being, but there is no loving reciprocations you can have. There is, in fact, but it is in more Shantras, the trees, the birds of Raj. So these are all in Shantras in one sense. But this is what not Mahaprabhu has come to give, the other 4 rasas, beginning from Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
One more question. If Dasya Rasa also is there in Goloka, but then if there is no knowledge of Aishwarya Bhav, then how Dasya can also be
Okay, so this we had discussed, I think, previously. So in Golok, the friends of Krishna, among them, some friends have a natural affinity to serve Krishna in servitude. Just like that beautiful picture of Krishna, maybe I should show you, where Krishna is getting ready. Mother Yashoda is dressing him, decorating him, getting ready to go to the forest. And some of the friends of Krishna are also, putting some, what are this called? Some ornaments to Krishna. So they serve also in Dasiras. And also they have a friendly relationship with Krishna. There are, we are speaking quite in a generous sense about Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Even among Sakas, in Sakyaras, there are different varieties of friends of Krishna. There are some friends of Krishna who have a general friendship with Krishna. Then there are something called as Priya Narma Sakas. The Priya Narma Sakas are very confidential friends of Krishna's who arrange meetings between Krishna and the gopis. So like that, even in Sakyaras, within Goloka, there are higher levels of intimacies in Sakya also. So similarly, there is friendship with Krishna. Also, there is a more servitude attitude towards Krishna in Dasyaras of Golok. There is more servitude. But there are some Sakas who think equal as Krishna, that I and Krishna are equal. And they think sometimes superior to themselves, superior to Krishna. And they have more intimacy. So with the level of intimacy increasing, the rasa evolves from Dasya to Sakya, Sakya to Vatsalya. Vatsalya is more intimate, and then the most intimate is Madhurya. So there is a lot of intimacy in the loving exchanges and loving reciprocations in these rasas in Vrindavan. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Further, let us discuss now. We are here. Nevertheless, because that affection is predominated by awareness of the Lord's powers, Aishwarya Gyan, that sneha should be considered predominantly on the path of Vaidhi. Vaidhi sadhana leads to prema with awareness of Lord's powers. So I told you, Vaidhi sadhana, Vaidhi bhav, Vaidhi prem. So Vaidhi sadhana leads to prema, but this is Vaidhi prem, where there is awareness of the Lord's powers. This begins with Vaikuntha, and it can go up to, even the Ayodhya Lok, and then further Dwarka, Mathura. But in Vrindavan, no, there is no awareness of Lord's powers. This sneha is thus not suitable for pure Raganuga sadhana. So this sneha is not suitable. If the word sneha is taken to mean general prema, it is impossible to follow such prema, since no particular details are given about actions that are unique to such prema. So it is not general prema also, because of this reason, he says. Thus, it would not be fitting for Raganuga sadhana because of the lack of any unique features to support it. So the general prema, no, there are no actions mentioned, so there are no unique features mentioned. So it is not fit for Raganuga sadhana. If one proposes that sneha means a particular elevated type of prema, not mixed with awareness of the Lord. Now, when here this third meaning of sneha is taken, a particular elevated type of prema, what is, Jiva Goswami is trying to explain is that I explained to you those levels of prema: pranaya, raga, anuraga, mana, bhava, mahabhav. There also the prema is there, na? So then it will end up as being classed as sambandha rup, relationships of thirst other than calm. So this is what he says. But that is already mentioned in relation to Vrishnis, actually the inhabitants of Braj. So sneha, if you say a particular elevated type of prema, then it will be classed as sambandha rupa. And that is being already, we have classified them as the Vrishnis have sambandha rupa. The Bhakti mentioned in verse 275, Bhaktya Vayam Vibhu, should be accepted as Vaidhi nature. Narad Muni and all practiced Bhakti in their previous lives, Vaidhi Bhakti, and attained prema for the Lord. This is because it is the only type of devotion. It is the only type of devotion left after enumerating Ragatmika, Kam and Sambandha, Vaidhi mixed with Sneha, Pandavas, and rejecting Dvesh and Bhaya as Bhakti. It is also understood to be Vaidhi Bhakti because the devotion of Narad was characterized by reverential worship of the Lord in his previous life. Bhaktya Vayam Vibho is considered Vaidhi because Narad's devotion was reverential. Now, I have put everything in the chart here. Please carefully see this chart. So here are the emotions and the class. Fear and hatred, Jiva Goswami rejects as not favorable to Bhakti. Sneha, affection is predominated by awareness of the Lord's powers, so it cannot be classed as Ragatmika. Bhaktya Vayam Vibho should be accepted as Vaidhi in nature. Of course, here Sneha, all three categories you can put, but just one I have put. Then remains Kam. Kam is classified as Ragatmika Bhakti and Sambandh as Ragatmika Bhakti. So only two among other four, these all are eliminated and only two remain, and these two are Ragatmika Bhakti. Further is another interesting explanation. In the first of the two verses quoted, 274, that is Kama Dveshad Bhayat Sneha Sambandhat Vishnaya, like that verse 274 in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. 5 items are mentioned: lust, hatred, fear, affection, and bhakti. Okay. Again, I'll have to go to the verse, otherwise Kama dveshat bhayat snehat yatha bhakteshwara mana. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 are mentioned. That's what here he's saying. In the first of the two verses quoted, 274, we went to the 5 items are mentioned: lust, hatred, fear, affection, bhakti. Okay, I hope it is clear now. In the explanation of the author, here author refers to Rupa Goswami, 6 items are mentioned corresponding to items apparently listed in verse 275. Lust, hatred, fear, relationship, affection, and bhakti. 6 items are mentioned in the explanation of the author. Actually, the meaning of the last line of verse 275 should be, from sambandha filled with affection, you Pandavas and the Vrishnis achieved the goal. So how do we understand? There are 5, items, but here in the explanation there is 6. So how do we understand? There should be a match. It is not matching. So that is resolved by saying that from sambandha filled with, sambandha snehat yuyam bhaktya vayam vivo. Like that it was there. Na? So what it means, from sambandha filled with affection, you Pandavas and the Vrishnis achieved the goal. Thus, there is only one item instead of 2 for both the parties. There is only one item instead of 2 for both the parties, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Though the Pandavas' relation is here classed as sambandha because of their affection, the previous cause of ultimate rejection as part of Ragatmika Bhakti still stands. Pandavas also have sambandha with the Lord, and the Vrishnis also have sambandha. So that sambandha is applied to both the Pandavas as well as the Vrishnis. But the sambandha of the Pandavas is not classed as Ragatmika Bhakti. Why? The Pandavas had awareness of Krishna as Lord with powers. So that is how the 5 and the 6 which are mentioned, that is resolved by this explanation of Jiva Goswami. And if you have not understood it till now, let us see the chart and it will become more clear. In the next slide, there is a chart. Sambandha and Sneha would then not be distinguished as separate items. This is according to Vapodev. Vapodev is also one Acharya. Prabhupada condemns him in his commentary, but he has given some explanation and Jiva Goswami is quoting this. Thus, the second verse will have 5 items as in the first verse. This agrees well with the next verse in the Bhagavatam where 5 types are again mentioned. Katamo pi na vena swat panchanam purusham prati. Although any of the 5 types of persons, but not King Vane, who did not concentrate on the Lord, will attain their objectives in relation to the Lord. So next, Narad Muni, in his discussion with Yudhishthira Maharaj, speaks this verse. That, why did Vena, although Vena also had absorption in the Lord, Vena attained hellish planet, but the Kamsa and Shishupal, they also had enviousness towards the Lord, but they attained, liberation, but not prema. So all that explanation comes in the Bhagavatam. Will not go into it. Why Vena did not? Because Vena committed offenses to the Lord and his devotees. So there was some difference there. Vena also had absorption in the Lord. He himself thought that he was the Lord. So there are some other reasons also. Purusham here refers to the Lord. The meaning is any of these 5 persons will be successful in relationship. So here the word 5 is there. So 5 to 5 he has matched. Thus, what the Bhagavatam verses have illustrated is 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti, Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. So thus he explains that those 2 verses only express Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Now I have put this in the chart. See this chart very attentively and you will get it. Verse 274 is here, 275 is here, and the Bhakti. Now, Kamat Dveshat was there, na? Kamat, Gopya Kamat is there. And this is Ragatmika Bhakti. Dveshat, Dveshat Chaida Devan Ripa is there. It is not favorable. Bhayat, Bhayat Kamso was given in the next verse. It is not favorable. Now Snehat. Now Snehat, the explanation was Sambandhat Vrishnaya. Vrajvasis are not Yadus. This is classed as Ragatmika Bhakti, but Sambandhat Snehat Vivam Yuyam refers to the Pandavas. This is not classed as Ragatmika Bhakti. This was what exactly is the explanation Jiva Goswami is trying to give here. There is 5, but here it is 6. So why, it is like that? Because there is only one item instead of 2 for the both the parties. So this is what, I was trying to explain in the slides. Sambandhat Vrishnaya, Snehat Sambandhat Vrishnaya. Yuyam was there, na? So that Sneha, Sambandha Vrishnaya is Ragatmika Bhakti, and that Sneha, Sambandha Yuyam is not Ragatmika Bhakti. And Bhaktya, Bhakti, Bhaktya Vayam is Vaidhi Bhakti. So in the verse 274 and 275 is the scriptural proof for 2 types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Kama Rupa is Gopya Kamat and Sambandha Rupa is Vrishnaya, and Vrishnaya refers to the Vrajvasis. Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay. Any questions you have about this explanation, what Jiva Goswami has given? I hope it is clear. Okay. Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
Manjari Bhav, that comes under Kama Rupa or Sambandha Rupa?
That we'll study later on. Right now we are studying that Ragatmika Bhakti is classed into 2 types. Kama Rupa, Sambandha Rupa. And Rupa Goswami is giving scriptural proof for it from the Bhagavatam, and is given an explanation how these verses, these 2 verses, Gopya Kamat, Kama Dveshat Bhayat, these 2 verses are the proof of Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, you can now a little bit fathom that if you want to understand Bhagavatam, you have to see through the lens of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Only through the lens of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Bhagavatam, you can actually, the rasa is revealed. And that's why Jiva Goswami glorifies, obsessed with the desire to, benefit the jivas. The lotus heart of Rupa has come, this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which explains the rasas of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says. So how deep is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we can understand. Yes, Mohan Rup Sham Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This then the Pandavas are not coming under the Ragatmika Bhaktas. So what are they? What are they, Prabhu? They are Vaidhi Sadhana Bhaktis?
Huh?
They are come under a Sadhana Bhaktis, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti or?
No. So we are not still getting the point clearly. You see, Narad Muni, Narad Muni, let us take the simple example of Narad Muni. Now, Narad Muni in his previous life was a maidservant on this planet Earth. He perfected his life, attained prema, and he gave that body. And next body, he attained a spiritual body. Now, Narad Muni is an eternally liberated soul. Yes, he is an eternally liberated soul. But he is not a Ragatmika Bhakta. He is not a Ragatmika Bhakta. difficult to digest it. Okay. Or take the example of Bhishma. Bhishma is a pure devotee of the Lord. He has prema for the Lord.
If they are not Ragatmika Bhaktas, then what is their category, Prabhuji?
They are all pure devotees. Please understand, they are all pure devotees. They are eternally liberated souls. They are Nitya Siddhas.
Okay.
But Ragatmika Bhaktas are exclusively Brajvasis because they have spontaneous attraction towards Krishna without having any Aishwarya Jnana about Krishna. They have spontaneous thirst, deep thirst filled with, absorption in Krishna. That kind of prema is only found in Madhurya Prema. It is called, sweetness filled, absorbed in the sweetness. The other devotees who follow the Vaidhi path, like, worshipping the South Indian, sampradayas which worship, even in Dwarka, those who worship, Dwarkadish. But what is their mode of worship? They consider Dwarkadish as, Krishna was king. But who in Vrindavan considers Krishna as king? Nobody. Krishna is just a cowherd boy there. He's not God. So that mood of devotion which is practiced by the Vrajvasis, where there is not acceptance of Krishna as Bhagavan in his Aishwarya feature, but just as a lover, friend, beloved, like that, my child. This intimacy, this is, what is the Braj Ras or the Vrindavan Ras, which is exclusive with the Ragatmika Bhaktas of Braj. Is it clear? Okay. Any other questions anyone has about this verse? I hope this verse was clear. How many of you could understand this verse? Can raise your hands. The explanation was very, very clear from Jiva Goswami, and I made the charts just to make it very clear. Okay, at least 50% have raised their hands. Then, then it gives me some inspiration too, Okay, fine, excellent. Okay, you can lower down. Now, further, okay, you can lower your hands. Scriptural proofs for the two types of Ragatmika Bhakti. Now, how can the gopis and the Vrishnis, now here the Vrishnis means of Raja, attain the same destination as Kamsa and Shishupal? Now, in the next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, now you can see the topic is about Ragatmika Bhakti, but so much elaboration is, the topic is about Raganuga Bhakti, but so much elaboration has been going on about Ragatmika Bhakti. And especially now, all attain the same destination not. So now Rupa Goswami is clarifying. Yad arinam priyanam cha prapyam ekam ivoditam tad brahma krishnayor aikyat kiranarkopama jusha. When it is said that the enemies and the dear friends of the Lord attained the same end, yad arinam priyanam cha ekam prapa iva uditam, it means the same end only in the sense that Brahman and the personal form of Krishna are one entity. Tad Brahma Krishnayor Aikyat. It is one entity. In the manner that the rays of the sun and the sun are one. Kirana Arka Upama Jusha. So the absolute truth is one. Where is the definition given of the absolute truth as one in the Bhagavatam? Anyone knows which verse it is? Anyone can quote the verse? Which is the verse I'm referring to, that the absolute truth is one? Yes, Pavan Balagovind Prabhuji has raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji? Yes.
Brahmeti Paramatmeti Sat.
Yes,
Bhagavan
excellent.
is Sabhiti.
Yes. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti. Advayam. It is only one thing, but it is perceived as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan. Yes. So it's one, and the analogy is sun and the rays of sun. Okay. Jiva Goswami in his commentary. It was stated in verse 274, quoting from the Bhagavatam, that those with hatred and fear attain the goal. Tad gatim gata, as did those with conjugal love and affection. The doubt may arise, how can enemy of Krishna and a friend of Krishna achieve the same goal? This verse clears that doubt. So this verse of Rupa Goswami clears this doubt. Priya Nam refers to the gopis, Vrishnis, Pandavas, and Narad, all dear devotees of Lord, in fact, in one sense. The example of sun and its rays is given in the Brahma Samhita. Yasya prabha prabhavito jagadanda koti shvashesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam tad brahma nishkalam ananta ashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamham bhajami. I serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govind, the primeval Lord, Govindamadi Purusham tamam bhajami, whose transcendental bodily effulgence. Yasya prabha. This is the Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, known as the Brahma Jyoti, Tad Brahma, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all pervasive. Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam is the cause of the creation of unlimited number of planets. Prabhavato Kotishu Jagat Anda, with varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. Ashesha Vasudhadi Vibhuti Vinnam. Bhagavad Gita also says, Brahmano hi Pratishta Aham. I am the shelter of impersonal Brahman. Pratishta means shelter. If a person becomes highly qualified, he realizes the condensed form through the appearance of the Lord as Bhagavan with form and qualities. Otherwise, the person realizes the diluted form through the appearance of the Brahman with no form and qualities. One should understand that the effulgence could exist only if it has a foundation. Brahmano Pratishta. Pratishta means foundation. Thus, even those satisfied with realization of Atma become attracted to qualities of Bhagavan. Atma Ramascha Munyo. If one is very inquisitive, one should consult the Bhagavad Sandarbha. So that's what Jiva Goswami says. All these different subtle intricacies, if you want to know, you can consult the Bhagavad Sandarbha. Now, the next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Brahmani eva layam yanti prayena ripovo hare kechit prapyapi sarupya bhasam manjanti tatsuke. The enemies of the Lord, hare ripava, generally prayena, merge into the impersonal Brahman. Brahmani eva layam yanti. Some of them, kechit, even though they attain semblance of a form similar to the Lord's, Sarupya Abhasam. Sarupya is also, attaining the same form of the Lord among the 5 types of liberation, Kapil Dev. But here it is Sarup Abhas. Abhas means semblance. Sarup Abhasyam Prapapi, remain absorbed in the happiness of Brahman. Majjanti Tatsuke. Majjanti means absorbed. Majjanti is a very general word which we also use. Among the enemies, some merge into Brahman. Vishnu Chakatakur. Others, such as Shrighala, Vasudev, attain forms somewhat resembling that of the Lord, but remain merged in the happiness of Brahman rather than serving the Lord. So Shrighala Vasudev also imitated that I am Krishna, just like Paundrak did. So they also had, these 4 hands. Paundrak, had, like he imitated Vasudev. He also came with 4 hands. Krishna to the Sudarshan cut him, and killed him. So Shrigala Vasudev and Paundrak, they attain a semblance of the form of the Lord because that soul has not yet evolved and accepted the Lord as Prabhu and I as a servant. There is no service attitude. So although they have a semblance of the form, but still they are merged in the happiness of Brahman after being delivered by Krishna. Now, these things are sometimes inconceivable to conceive, what exactly this means. But just to give an example, in a family, there is the loving father, mother, and the children. And the father has a nice, beautiful car. The son is also grown up. He also wants a car, but the father doesn't allow him, gives him. So the son is, not having good relationship with the father now. Although all of them in the family are nicely having loving reciprocations and having dinner or lunch in the dining table and having nice loving reciprocations, but the son is in his own room, absorbed in the video game or whatever it is. So although he can have loving reciprocations with the father, but because of some disturbance in the mood in their relationship, the son is absorbed in his own room, in the video games. Similarly, these demons, they have a semblance of the form of the Lord, Sarup Abhyas, but they remain merged in happiness of Brahman. Note, he was the king of Karavir and was killed by Krishna and Balram while they were living in Mathura. So this is about Shrikal Vasudeva. Okay. Now, regarding these two verses which Rupa Goswami quoted, that it's not that all of them attain the Lord, the enemies attain the impersonal Brahman. So he gives scriptural proof for it now. Now this scriptural proof is for these two previous verses, that how the enemies of the Lord attain impersonal liberation, whereas those who have very dear to the Lord, they attain the Lord's abode. Tatacha Brahmanda Purani, from the Brahmanda Puran he gives. Siddha lokastu tamasa pare yatra vasantihi siddha brahma sukhe magna daitascha harina hata. Siddhalok. Now Siddhalok sometimes can refer to one of the planetary systems within the 14 planetary systems, where the mystic yogis stay and they have natural siddhis. So sometimes it's a generic term, and you have to see in what context that term has been used, and then you have to take the meaning. So here Siddhalok, that's why in the bracket it is mentioned as spiritual world. So Siddhalok refers to the spiritual world, where like we say sadhana and siddha. He's a siddha devotee, he has attained perfection. So Siddhalok refers to the spiritual, is beyond Prakriti. Siddhalokastu tamasa pare. And this word tamasa pare makes it clear that it is not speaking about the Siddhalok within the 14 planetary systems. There, yatra, demons killed by Krishna, daitascha harinahata, and some sages, siddha, dwell, vasantihi, merge in the happiness of Brahman. Brahma sukhe magna. So just see, those sages who are meditating on the impersonal aspect of the Lord, after doing their meditation, attain perfection and liberation, the same destination is attained by Krishna killing the demons. The proof that the demons merge in the Brahman will be given in the first half of verse 282. The proof that some demons attain the planet of the Lord but still remain merged in the happiness of Brahman is stated in this verse. So I gave you that example, of the son who has some break in the relationship with the father. He's sitting in his own room and absorbed like that. Thus the phrase Tatacha Brahmanda Purane is used. Siddha refers to the sages. The sages and the demons dwell on that planet of the Lord, merged in the happiness of Brahman. Okay. Next verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. After giving the evidence, further now, he comes back to the discussion of Raganuga Bhakti. Ragabandena kenapi tam bhajato vrajantyami hangri padam sudha prema rupastasya priya jana. Those persons most devoted to the Lord, tasya priya jana, who are the very form of prema, prema rupa, and who worship him with instantaneous, spontaneous absorption. Tam bhajato ragamandena, attain the nectar of his lotus feet. Vrajanti Angri Padma Sudha. So this refers to, the devotees of the Lord, especially the gopis. So the topic here, if you remember, is how is that the gopis as well as the Vrishnis attain the same destination as Kamsa and Shishupal. So this he has clarified in 2 verses, and he has given the scriptural proof also. And he mentioned that those who are in prema, they attain. This verse describes especially the supreme position of the devoted gopis. The word Priya indicates this. Priya Jana. Okay. Now he gives a scriptural reference to how the gopis attain not the Brahman, but the Lord's abode. This is from the 10th canto, the prayers of the personified Vedas, chapter 87. Tata hi Shri Dashami. Nibritta marun manoksha dhridayoga yujo ridiyan. Unaya upasate tadarayopi yayu smaranat. Striya urayendra bhoga bhuja danda vishakta diyo. Vayam api te samadrisho angri saroja sudha. Simply by constantly thinking of him, Smaranat, the enemies of the Lord, Yad Arayapi, attained, Yayu, the same Brahman that sages fixed in yoga worship. Yad Drida Yoga Yujo Munoyo Upasate, by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Nibrit Marut Mano Aksha. Aksha refers to the senses, eyes. Mano refers to the mind. And Marut refers to the winds, that is the air. Similarly, we Shrutis, Vayamapi, the Shrutis are paying here, personified Vedas, adopting a mood similar to the gopis, Samadrisho, and finally attaining similar bodies, Te Sama, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet. Angri Saroja Sudha, that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. So here it clearly and emphatically brings out that the Ripu or the enemies attain the same destination as the yogis, that is Brahman, whereas those who accept the same mood of the gopis, they will attain the lotus feet of the Lord. That means they'll attain the Lord's abode. Now, Jiva Goswami in his commentary. The author matches the statement of this verse from the prayers of the personified Vedas in the 10th canto with the attainment of Brahman mentioned in the first half of the verse 279 and with the attainment of the Lord's feet by Raga mentioned in verse 278. To 278 Raga Bandena, that was a verse, and 279 was mentioned Yad Arinam. By the use of api twice, one in each half of the present verse, 2 separate pairs of person with differing destinations should be understood. The enemies of the Lord attain that Brahman, which the sages contemplate in their hearts simply by remembrance of the Lord in fear or hatred. Striya here refers to the gopis as they are well known in this context. The gopis attain the nectar of your lotus feet, the various types of sweetness filled with prema. Further, Jivasam. We, the Upanishads, adopting a mood or emotion similar to that of the gopis, Samadrisha, and thus attaining forms like them, Sama, also attain the nectar of the lotus feet. Now, the Upanishad, the personified Upanishads, what they are called, if you know from the Srimad Bhagavatam, anyone knows, can raise your hands. What they are called, the personified Vedas. Anyone knows? It will come up ahead in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but I want to know from the devotees participating what they are called as. Yes, Pavan Balagovind Prabhu is always very enthusiastic. Yes, Prabhuji.
Are they known as Shruti Rupa Gopis?
Yes, Shruti-chari gopis. Shruti is personified Vedas, Shruti-chari gopis. In fact, the personified Vedas, they practice Raganuga Bhakti, following the Nitya Siddha gopis, the Ragatmika Bhaktas. And in Krishna Leela, 5,000 years back, they appeared as Shruti-chari gopis. They attained perfection and went back to the Lord's abode. There are another kind of gopis who practice sadhana and had appeared in Krishna's pastimes. Who are they? Whom I'm referring to? Anyone knows? Can raise their hands? Anyone knows? There are, in the Krishna Leela, there were another kind of gopis who had done sadhana in their previous life and had appeared, attained perfection and went back to the spiritual world. Queens of Dwarka, please understand that they don't fall in the category of Ragatmika Bhakti because they have Aishwarya Gyan about Krishna. And neither the sages and rishis. Which sages and rishis we are referring to? Which sages and rishis? There is one answer which is typed correctly. Yes, which sages and rishis you are referring to, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, the sages and rishis during that Treta Yuga, when Lord Ramachandra was there in the forest.
Yes. It is the Dandakaranya rishis. So the Dandakaranya rishis and the Shruti-chari, personified Vedas, the Dandakaranya rishis, they also they attained the gopi forms in Krishna Leela, and the Dandakaranya rishis also. So the Dandakaranya rishis, when they saw Lord Ram, they saw actually in his form Krishna because they were practicing, meditation on Krishna's form in Vraj. So they wanted to have a Madhuri Ras with Krishna. And when Ram understood, he said, I have taken now a vow of being Ekpatni Vrata. And even the, wedded marriage between Sita and Ram is more of Aishwarya. And even with the Dwarka queens, it is Aishwarya. But the unmarried love, conjugal love between Krishna and the gopis, that is Madhurya, which is called as Parakiya Bhav. Swakiya Bhav is wedded love, and Parakiya is unwedded love. So they had this mode of worship. So Lord Ram understood and he benedicted, in the next incarnation, I will fulfill your desire. So these Dandakaranya rishis perfected their sadhana and attained Siddhi and left their bodies. And in Dwapar Yuga, they took birth in the womb of the gopis, elderly gopis, as gopis. And they, further attained perfection and went back to the spiritual world. So similarly, the Upanishads are saying we'll adopt the mood similar to the gopis, Samadrisha. That means they are Raganuga Bhaktas, they will follow the Ragatmika Bhaktas, and then they will attain the Lord. So this is what I wanted to explain. The detailed meaning can be seen in the commentary of Srila Sanatana Goswami on the 10th canto called Vaishnava Toshini. So Vaishnava Toshini is exclusively a commentary written by Sanatana Goswami on the 10th canto. And Srila Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of his purports, he says that if one wants to understand Krishna Leela, the subtleties of Krishna Leela, then one should read Sanatana Goswami's Vaishnava Toshini, he says. But at least for now, we should read the first 9 cantos, then the 10th, 11th, 12th canto, and then reread many times Prabhupada's 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam, and then we should also read the Acharya's commentaries in order to better relish what Prabhupada has given us. Furthermore, in the Brahad Vamana Puran, it is stated that the gopis attained the gopi bodies for which they had prayed for. In the previous verse, the attainment of the Lord's feet also applies in general to persons who act with rag, though it directly indicates the gopis. So it is, in a general sense, it is mentioned. Everyone will attain. Vatsalya will also attain. Dasya will also attain. Okay. Further, the gopis mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse are those Kama Rupa Ragatmika devotees, and the personified Shrutis who are speaking are Kamanuga devotees, those performing Raganuga sadhana, following after the Kama Rupa gopis. So this I clarified, and Jiva Goswami is saying in his commentary, I did not know it is there. So I hope it is clear now, Similarly, the Vrishni should be understood to be Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhaktas. And those who follow after them would be Sambandhanuga Sadhana Bhaktas. Remember, these are Bhaktas. Raganuga Sadhana Bhaktas they are. And these are not Bhaktas. The Kama Rupa Ragatmika devotees, they are not classified as Bhaktas. They are eternally Nitya Siddhas. Now, a short commentary is given by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. We will take it up that. Nibhrittaye means with extreme steadiness, and thus indicates processes such as dharana. The Brahman Yad, which the sages worship worshipped by fixed themselves, by being fixed, it should be, I think, themselves in yoga, by highly controlled pranas, mind and senses, aksha, with only a possibility of attaining it, is attained by the enemies of the Lord by remembering him with hatred. Just imagine, what kind of sadhana is required to fix your senses and controlling the pranas, life airs, and doing all this. There is little possibility of attaining impersonal Brahman. But just by remembering the Lord with hatred, you can attain that. The gopis are absorbed in thinking, Sakta Dhiya, of the arms of Krishna that are like the body of the king of snakes, Urgendra Bhoga. So that finishes the discussion of the scriptural proof of Ragatmika Bhakti and the destinations attained by the enemies and those of the gopis. That clarifies everything. Now we saw that Ragatmika Bhakti is of two types. Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti and Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. So that will be the now next topic. So anyone has any questions up till now? Okay. So any questions, any clarifications? Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
I have one question, not but related to the main theme of Bhakti Sindhu. But one in between you had mentioned Yasya Prabha Prabhavato. You are explaining about non-different Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are non-different. So I had one question regarding that. Prabhuji, as you said that was Yasya Prabha Prabhavato, that means the Prabha or the light which is coming. So that is that energy of Lord or is that energetic itself?
That energy of Lord or what? What was the question?
The light coming from, as we understand, Brahman is the, it's a Nirakar Brahman, is light coming from the Lord. Because Yasya Prabha Prabhavato, that what you told. So now the light is basically energy, right? But here we understand that Brahman and Krishna are not different. That means the Brahman should be energetic. So whether Brahman is energy or energetic.
Okay. See, sometimes you can get into too much technical, about these things without understanding the philosophical part of it. Now, Krishna is Sachidananda. He's Sachidananda. He's Parabrahma. And he can be realized as Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan. Brahman is also Sachidananda. Paramatma is also Sachidananda. Bhagwan is also Sachidananda. This is first thing to be understood. Okay. Now the seekers of the absolute truth, they, based on how far they are from the absolute truth, they perceive the absolute truth as only they can see the Sat feature of the absolute truth. They see the Sat feature of the absolute truth. So that's why they are only able to access the Brahma Jyoti. Then further a little ahead, the Paramatmavadis, they can realize the Sat and the Chit features of the absolute truth. But the absolute truth is Satchidanand only. But they only can access that, Sat, Chit and Anand. So that's why they are the Paramatmavadis. Whereas the devotees, they can realize the Sat, Chit and the Anand features of the Lord. So that's why it is Advaya Gyan. The absolute truth is one, but it is perceived three ways. Now, again, a simple example Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives in his work is that somebody goes to have the darshan of the deities. And some people have specs. He speaks about myopic vision. Myopic vision is when your vision is not 6x6. Somebody has a -10 glass and he opens his specs and he sees at the deity. What he sees is nothing, just some glare he sees. That's it. So he can't see anything. He cannot see anything with the deities. But when he goes a little ahead, he can see some features. There are some, ornaments, something, but he is not able to see the full form of the Lord. When he goes still nearer, then he can see the beautiful form of Shamsundar. So it is only one thing which is being perceived, but based on our myopic vision or based on the distance, based on the path one takes, there is these, from the perceiver's point, it is different. So the absolute truth, whether it is Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagwan, is Sachidananda. So this is first aspect to be understood. Secondly, there is Shakti and Shaktiman. So from the Brahman is the Bharanga Shakti, the external potency manifesting by which the external creation happens. So that is the Bharanga Shakti of the Lord. And Shakti, Shaktiman, Abhedo. There is no difference between the Shakti and the Shaktiman. This is the Achinta Beda Veda Tattva. We know that. Heat and light and fire Prabhupada gives. So like that, we'll have to reconcile this and understand it, and then we can get a right understanding. For this, again, you will have to study Srimad Bhagavatam, the definition of the absolute truth more in detail to get a deeper understanding about it. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Fine. So we will again meet next week and further continue now discussion on Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. So I will stop now here and we will meet next week. Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai.